Hi, I'm Jody Turner, and this is Back to Basics. Today's show is going to be about starting seeds, and we're going to talk about a few other things before we get started, but one thing I wanted to mention to you is these are my seeds. These are seeds from my garden. These are pole bean seeds, and I don't actually plant the plants because I love to eat beans, but I plant them because they're beautiful. So just because you plant flowers or you plant vegetables, it doesn't mean that you have to eat them, but these are delicious, and these are heirloom. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about seeds, and my guest here today is Celeste Longacre. Yes. Hi, Celeste.
Hey, glad to be
here. It's nice to have you here. Yeah. And you've written a book called Garden Delights.
Yep.
And I can't wait to read more about it. I have read a little bit of it, and it has a lot of great ideas on how you can get going in your yard, how you can do things sustainably for yourself, and you have a lot of experience. You've got years and years of experience.
Decades.
Decades. Oh my gosh. So let me ask you a little bit about starting a garden. So you know, it starts with seeds, but it starts way before that.
It definitely starts way before that. You want to really, if you're going to plant a garden, you want to pick your spot really carefully because you need about 8 hours of sunshine to have a really good garden. Some 6 hours, maybe you could have a few things, but most of your plants really need 8 hours of sun. So you can pick a spot. If you don't really know if a spot has 8 hours of sunshine a day, you can photograph it during the day, and you can see where the shadows fall. So you don't want it to be too close to the house. You don't want it to be too close to trees. You also don't want it to be too close to trees or bushes that are going to steal the nutrients and the water.
Right, because water is very important as well.
Water is very, very important. You also don't want it to be a place where cars can drive by and splash stuff up on it, you know?
Right.
So those are things to consider. Another thing to consider is you don't want it to be a wet spot. So any place where water stands for a couple of days after it rains is not a good place to put the garden. Right. So pick your spot carefully. And also, one more thing, it needs to be very close to a really good water source. And by good water source, I mean a source that doesn't have fluoride, doesn't have chlorine, you know, so these are things to consider.
Right, right. So really what you need to do before you start even thinking about what you're going to plant in your garden, you have to think about how much space you have.
Right.
Because I know from experience that it's very easy to go through a catalog or to go to a store and pick all these seeds, and then you're like, oh my God, I have so many seeds, I don't have room to plant them. So that's one of the things that's really important as well, is to try to get your plot out so that you can figure out where you're going to put things, because you also don't want to plant the same things in the same places every year.
Right. So you definitely, it's a really good idea to make a garden plan.
Right.
To make a garden plan. I have an extensive garden plan, and I keep it, I will work on it in the winter because that's when I'm not out weeding or doing other things. So it's a good time to work on your garden plan and see exactly what you do want to plant and where you want to plant it.
Right, right. And you can do crops. I know that in your book you've mentioned how you do a certain crop at one time of the year and then you take that out and then you put another crop in.
That's true.
So that's something to think about too. So like lettuces and things like that, you can consecutively plant those every couple of weeks.
Right.
And so you've always got that fresh, you know, baby lettuce, which is really nice.
Is really nice, yeah.
So, well, let's talk a little bit about how you'd get started on your seeds, because you can buy seeds in the stores. There's lots of places in the area that you can, you know, buy seeds that are either organic or not organic, hopefully not GMO. We could go over, that's another show, because I would love to talk about GMOs and pesticides, because just quickly, I can't help myself. Be very careful what you use in your garden. If you're not using things that are organic, and even if you're using things that are organic, read the labels, because it's very important that we don't kill a lot of our pollinators. Those are very important to us and the health of our gardens.
Yeah.
So when you go to a home center and you see pesticides in a gallon jug, that doesn't mean that you need to use more. You need to read the directions and pay attention to it. So fungicides, herbicides, insecticides, pay attention to them. And now, I'm off my soapbox, my soapbox, but I really like heirloom varieties.
I do too.
Yeah, because those are things that are not going to be different than, you know, what you're planting. So tell me a little bit about some of the catalogs that you order from.
Okay, well, Johnny's catalog, we have a photo that we can put up here. Johnny's, you can get yours too.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You can see that Johnny's actually comes from Maine, so it's kind of local. And you can see along the bottom of the right-hand pages, they have all these little the way you can read, how they mark their
Like
seeds.
codes, yeah.
Yeah, the codes
Right.
for their seeds. Like OG is organic. You can about the third one in on the top row, and they can see if it's an award winner. That's the next one, or cold tolerant, little snowflake,
Yeah,
which would
especially
make
around
it
here.
and
Yeah.
then extremely heat tolerant, and then if it's an heirloom, or if it's a cut flower, and then on the bottom row there's edible flowers. Dried flowers, easy choice. The easy choice one is plants that are really easy to grow. So that's something that somebody that's beginning might want to really
Right,
concentrate
right.
on picking the
Do
easy
something
choice.
that you're good at.
Yep.
Yeah.
Greenhouse performer, because not all varieties like to be in a greenhouse. Containers, you could put these
even if
plants
you-
in containers.
Right, and even if you don't have a garden, you can always have a container garden.
Absolutely.
Right.
Just for if you have a patio.
Right.
Okay, salad mix. Trellis required or needed, so that some plants need something to climb up, and then some of them they're variety protected, meaning you can't collect the seeds and plant them.
So how do they pay attention to that? Because I know I've
They
seen
patent it.
right, but like I've seen before where like the companies that sell the seeds have gone to court to stop people from using the seeds. I don't know how is that fair?
Well, it's not fair, but
Yeah.
it is true.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that they've even been able to get patents on those kinds of things.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's right, but it's
Right.
the way it is.
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite in Johnny's? Is there something that you really enjoy purchasing from
There
them?
is something, and actually, the thing that I really like in Johnny's, when you see the F1 with a variety, it means it's not an heirloom, and it's not actually a plant that you can save the seeds from. It's a hybrid, so it has two different parents. And one of my favorites from Johnny's is Zephyr, which is a type of summer squash.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I've
seen
It
that.
is
Yeah.
a hybrid. I
And
tried.
it's green and yellow, isn't it?
Yeah, I try like crazy to stay away from hybrids because I
Right.
think it's nice to plant plants that can reproduce themselves, but
Right.
that is really
Yeah,
good.
and I think they also say in there, because I was reading a little bit about that variety, is that the heat has some effect on the coloring that
Oh,
you might
really?
see. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So then territorial seeds, which is the next photo that we have, they have key symbols, and they have it a little bit different. They'll put organic, and then they have varieties available as plants that you can buy from them as plants. Open pollinated variety, a hybrid variety, then the full sun, partial shade, full shade. Great for cutting and crafting. Culinary or a tea, has extra shipping weight. Conventional seeds, certified organic seeds, and pelleted seeds, which is something you can buy from them.
And
But
what is pelleted seeds?
it's something that it comes with extra stuff around it.
Oh, yeah, like corn husk.
I'm
Probably.
not quite sure what it actually is.
Well, yeah.
But they
Yeah.
separate, the next two slides will show you how they separate out, some of the varieties for container gardening.
Yeah.
And then purple power is the next slide, which they
Right.
show how things that have purple in them usually are very, very
Good for you, aren't they?
very good for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Very good
because
for
you should try to get colors anyway, like the oranges and the yellows and all. You should have all of those in your meals anyway, because they're just good for us.
Right, and purple, and things that tend to have purple have more nutrients and more micronutrients than things that are not so widely colored.
Ah.
Then we have seeds of change. It's a slide, and they are all organic. So seeds of change has everything organic in here, but they have a different legend. They'll tell you whether it's an heirloom or traditional or medicinal, rare, new, or a seed of change exclusive with little scissors for cut flowers. I think they all have the little scissors for cut flowers, but they also will have, moderate water, frequent
Right.
water.
So it gives you an idea of whatever kind of garden you have, what might work best in your garden. So although all of the catalogs are slightly different,
Yep.
they're really telling you the same thing.
Pretty
It's
much.
just in a different form.
Right.
That's all. Yeah.
And then the Seed Savers Exchange, which is our next slide. I like the Seed Savers Exchange because it's all plants, and all seeds that people have given them that are old time family seeds. So there's no hybrids in here. Some of them are organic, some of them aren't. But they really concentrate on bringing back varieties that you'll read in here and it'll say, comes from 1801,
Right.
came over with the Russian family, and so it's really kind
Yeah.
of interesting.
So would those all be considered heirloom varieties, or
I think most of them are, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It says right here, catalog of heirloom,
Yeah.
untreated, non-hybrid, non-GMO seeds.
what else do you want? Okay, let's see. It's going to be Seed Savers Exchange.
Yes,
No.
that's a
There's
good- that's a
all
good
kinds
one.
of catalogs, but I mean,
Right.
this one's a great one if you want to grow things and be able to save the seeds and have something that's good for you.
Right. Yeah. And the other one that I don't have a slide for is Fedco. And as you can see, Fedco is very bland. It's just black and white. It doesn't have all those wonderful colored
It's very
pictures,
organic.
but it's cheap.
And they do have good seeds, and
They
they've got
have
a
wonderful
lot,
seeds.
a lot of variety in
They
there.
do.
The only thing that I don't like about their catalog is it's not in color. So
Well,
you
that's
can't
why
really
you
tell.
can, but that's why they don't they have to charge so much for their seeds.
Right.
Because
But
they
I
don't
think
have
they have a
such
website.
beautiful. They do have a website. Yes.
so you could actually go on and see what the flowers all look
Yeah,
like.
you could.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
Great, great.
So, and there's lots of other catalogs too. You know, there's probably hundreds of catalogs that will go onto the internet. You can most of these catalogs also can be accessed through the internet.
Right.
So you can do a search for them, and they will show you things, and they will have colored pictures.
So most of these catalogs come out when it's really cold.
Yep.
And so that's one of the good things about the catalogs is it makes you feel like there's hope at the end of the tunnel.
Right,
You know,
it's-
there's gonna be sun, there's gonna be warmth, and you're gonna be able to start growing
And
things
it's
again.
wonderful to be looking at lush tomatoes and ripe cantaloupes
Right,
and things like that when
right.
it's really just
Yeah.
white outside.
Right, right.
But like it is right now for
Yeah,
us.
Right, right. So we have a lot of seeds that we've planted, and then what happens? We get a bounty of product. We get potatoes, we get onions, we get carrots, we get all these vegetables, tomatoes. What do we do with them?
Well, there's different things that we can do with, we do different things with different types of vegetables, but what I thought we could concentrate on today is the root cellar.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a picture of our root cellar, which is next. All right. This is a root cellar. It's only about 6 feet by 4 feet, and we actually built it when we were building an addition. We built the root cellar first. So we did a little cement floor, and then we went up with the bricks, and then we built the floor right over it as we built the addition. So there's a trap door in the floor that opens up to the root cellar.
Right.
If you're not putting on an addition and you'd like to do a root cellar, you can actually do a root cellar if you have a basement that's not heated and it doesn't freeze. Pretty much you have a root cellar. You just have to make a section critter-proof.
Right.
So you'd have to make a section that the critters wouldn't be able to come in. The mice wouldn't be able to come in and eat the potatoes and stuff because ours is completely blocked off, so you can't do that. If you have a basement that is heated, what you can do is you can take the corner that's the farthest away from the heat, and you can build a little room with a whole bunch of insulation, because the earth stays about 50, 55 degrees. That's the ambient temperature of the earth, and so if you kind of nestle right into that corner and keep it from the heat, you can create a root cellar that way.
Okay. So what would you keep? And I know that you keep potatoes and carrots and things like that in a root cellar, but why would you want to do that then keep them out in a room where it's 60 degrees?
Well, because if you have carrots and you put them on a table, they shrivel up. Okay, same thing with the beets. Same thing with the potatoes, might turn green. So you would want to put them in the root cellar because literally they keep until July. The potatoes don't. Potatoes have they're engineered to know that they're supposed to go into the ground in April. So potatoes will last until April. But the rest of the carrots and the beets and my onions, they go well into July.
And what do you do with them when you put them in your root cellar? You're putting them in the root cellar, but you don't just lay them there.
No.
So what do you do to keep them?
The first thing you need to do is you need to sun them. I have a picture of carrots sunning that we can show you. So you want to put them out, for maybe 20 minutes on one side and then turn them over and 20 minutes on the other side, okay? And you do the same thing with beets. And then what I would do is I would cut them like you can see with the beets here. I've cut the tops, leaving a little bit of the tops. So you would want to sun the beets as well. Again, maybe 20 minutes on one side, 20 minutes on the other side. Then you take an empty 5-gallon bucket, okay? And you can get these buckets at Home Depot. You can get them a lot of different places. But
Does it have to be food grade? Doesn't have to be food grade.
Well,
or is it better?
I would wash it.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
wash it. And then I get some really clean sand. You have to have clean sand every year, very, very dry.
And where would you find that?
You can get that at the gravel pit type places.
Okay.
The guy that I go to always gives it to me. So I always bring him some garden veggies in return,
Nice.
But you want to put just a little bit of sand like you saw at the bottom of that bucket. And then you want to put the beets or the carrots not touching. As you can see in this photo, they're in the sand, but they're not touching. So what I do is then I put a little bit more sand, and I put the sand in between the ones that are close together first, so that the rushing sand doesn't make them touch.
Now, did you brush the outsides of the?
I did.
The
You're right.
potatoes or
yes.
beets? Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. You do
That's
have
okay.
to. You do brush them a little bit with a nice soft.
But you have to be
soft
careful
brush.
not to
Ding them.
bruise them too.
Any vegetables that have had insects eat them, or you stabbed with a fork when you were picking them out, or you hurt them when you were brushing them, you have to eat those right away.
Darn.
I know. And one bad one does spoil the whole bunch.
Right.
It really does. Because if it can rot, it can make everything wet.
Right.
And then the wetness just creates, so it'll
mold
rot
and
it'll
yeah.
rot up from the bottom. Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's what we do with the carrots and the beets. Now with the potatoes, you want to also sun them. And again, just about 20 minutes on one side, 20 minutes on the other side. You don't want to leave them too long in the sun, because if they turn green, they become inedible.
So
it will make you sick if you eat a green tomato.
Right.
So you don't
well,
want to do
sometimes
that.
in like a potato chip bag, I see green potatoes. Is that just?
They're not paying attention.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I'd eat it.
No. So really, if you find one that's green, you don't even.
If there's only a little piece that's green, you can put it in the root cellar, and when you take it out to eat it, just cut the green part off.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
But you'd want to do that, and then the next picture will show you how I put them in crates.
So you don't put these in sand. These are
No.
just
These, and I do brush them off again, so they were kind of, the picture before, you could see they were kind of dirty. So they get, what the sunning them does really is it dries the dirt.
Right.
So that you can brush it off pretty easily. And you don't want to, the one thing about the carrots, the potatoes, is you don't want to put them too high, because the weight can mush the ones on the bottom. You can stack as many buckets, as many milk crates as you want on top of each other, but you don't want to put the potatoes too high.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
And then the onions, which you will see with the next picture, they're kind of ready to come out when they start to fall over. So you can see the onions are starting to fall over. Around here, that's usually the second week of August.
And can you cut the tops of those off and eat the tops of the onions?
You could eat them, but what I usually do is I set them out. In the next picture you'll see, I set them out, and they still have some of their tops. They need to be sunned for actually 7 sunny days.
Straight? What happens if it rains?
And you have to bring them in if it rains, and you have
Okay.
to bring them in every single night too,
Oh my gosh.
because you don't want them to get wet.
Okay.
All right. So, and every time I bring them in,
That's harder than taking hay. My gosh, I thought they had a hard time.
well,
but-
sometimes it takes a couple of weeks to
Right.
get 7
Right.
sunny days, but you have to plant a kind that's a keeper kind. All right, and then you kind of work the greens off. You don't pull them off, but you kind of just brush it along. And by the time the last sunning day is, they don't really have any of their tops anymore.
So in 7 days, they'll have everything dried up and
Pretty much
you'll
dried
have
up, and they're
your
ready
onions.
to go. Where they're going to go. So I'll show you. A couple years ago, I had quite a few onions in these baskets here.
Wow, that's a lot of onions.
And yeah, it was. And the first day when I got them ready and I started them sunning, it took me 4 hours. And I thought, why
Why
it
would
take
it
me
take you
4
4 hours?
just to get them all out on the sheets and get them all sunning? So I
Right.
decided to count them when I brought them in, and I had 741 onions.
So that means you have to use 2 a day.
So everybody got onions for Christmas.
Wow.
But what you can do is once they're all ready, you can hang them in the pantry in string bags, which is the next photo. And what I do is I have 3 different bags. I have small, medium, and large. So I use the same bags year after year, and I just hang them in the pantry, and they will keep into July.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everything tastes so much better when it comes out of your garden, for
Oh,
one thing.
absolutely.
But to be able to store them and to have them later on, I mean, all the way to July, it's amazing. And I've got to tell you, I grow potatoes in our garden. They are the best. My brother,
are the
My
best.
brother had said, "Oh, Jody, you've got to try potatoes," and I was like, "Oh my God, I can't grow potatoes." And he said, "No, you got to try it," and I did, and it is like eating velvety.
They're
something.
delicious.
It's like cream. They are delicious.
They are delicious. So I brought a little tray with a few of the things that I pulled out of the root cellar today. Okay, potatoes. Look at that gorgeous potato. Now this is the middle of January, so it's like the carrots and the beets that I pulled. They're small because the bigger they are, the better they keep. So the really big beets that I have are at the very bottom of the bottom bucket in the root cellar.
That's okay.
So we're eating the smaller beets now, but you can see it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. There's nothing wrong with this beet. And then the carrots, again, they're the small ones because we're eating the small ones first. Okay.
Yep.
So, and they have to be perfect. And then I planted some shallots this year. Shallots are actually easier than onions because you don't
Are
have
they
to sun
sweeter?
them.
Are they sweeter than onions, or how do they compare?
They have a little bit of a different taste. Some people think it's like a combination between garlic and onion. And then onions, they really do keep. Sometimes you'll see some that will start to go by, but you know, it is a little bit of work to put them out and take them in and put them out and take them in. But I have onions all year long from doing this. And one thing that I did learn, which I will share with you, is when you bring the onions in, I have them out on sheets. And so the first few times I brought them in, I kind of just rolled the onions into the baskets from the sheets, and I got crickets in my house. I don't do that anymore.
They like the moisture underneath, I bet, and the shade. Yeah.
So, now I pick them up and I put them in the baskets, because it's like, no, we don't want, crickets will drive you crazy in the house,
they do.
I think.
I know.
Yeah, so.
And they really don't want to be in your house.
No, they don't, but they make noise until you get close to them, and then they
Exactly.
stop making noise and you can't find them. So they're kind of a pain.
Yeah. So that's great. So these are all things that you put in your root cellar.
Well, no, I don't put the onions or the shallots in the root
Right.
cellar. But the potatoes and the carrots. You could also put turnips in the root cellar.
Yeah.
And really, like you said, the potatoes are so absolutely delicious. I grow two different kinds. I don't know if you can see that there's two different kinds.
Carib? Or?
This is Caribes.
Oh,
It's got a
Caribes.
purple. It's got a purple skin and it's got a white interior, and it makes the best mashed potatoes.
Totally. I agree. That's what I've
they're
had.
just so
and
delicious.
Are the other ones Yukons?
No, this is Kennebecs.
Kennebecs.
So
Okay.
these Caribes are wonderful mashed potatoes and they're wonderful French fries, but they don't bake. So I grow the Kennebecs because they bake really well.
And they have a thinner skin than some of those russets that you buy in the
that's
store.
true.
Yeah.
And I like the skin. And even when I make mashed potatoes, I put the skin in.
Oh, yeah.
I don't ever take the skin off because
Right.
really most of the vitamins in vegetables are in the skin.
Right.
So if you don't use any chemicals, which I don't use any chemicals at all,
Right.
the skin is really good for you. So you definitely want to include the skin.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing that just came to mind is on potatoes or carrots or beets and things like that, what I understand is if you're going to buy them in the store, but you can do this in your own gardens too, is buy organic.
Right.
For any kind of skinned vegetable or fruits and anything that has seeds in it, I understand, that you really need to try to buy organic if you're going to the grocery store. But if you have your own garden,
Right.
it can be organic anyway. You know,
Well,
it might
and
not be certified, but...
Well, and all the GMOs, I mean, they just keep making more and more and more things genetically modified. And I heard that one of the latest things that they made genetically modified was the summer squash, which...
I just don't understand why we have to do that. I mean, I understand, you know, science-wise, I think it's great to do lots of research and to use things, but I really think that we have to think about the future and what we're going to leave our kids, because what's going to happen when we've gotten all of these nutrients? I'm not trying to be like, oh, the sky is falling, but what's going to happen when we've taken all of the nutrients out of our soil, especially in the monocrops that we have, where you've got corns and you've got wheats and even strawberries and almond crops. You know, like we're just sucking all those nutrients out and we're not putting anything back in that's good for the soil.
Well, most soils now really are deficient. So if you do want to have a garden in your backyard, it might be wise to get your soil tested.
Right.
And you can get your soil tested very inexpensively from the University of New Hampshire Extension Services. They will do it. The last time it would cost me $17, which is not a whole lot of money to get your soil tested. And then you can see what you need, what you maybe have a little bit of need for.
A deficiency.
Deficiency, right. I mean, you can put organic alfalfa meal in, and that will be good for the plants and good for the earthworms. You can put in kelp meal, that helps for trace minerals. You can put in azomite powder, which is, it stands for A to Z of minerals, including trace elements. So that's going to put a lot of minerals in there. But it does, you really need to figure out what is missing, because different soils are missing different things.
And then on the other side, you don't want to use too much of something. So like with organic manures and things like that.
Right.
You know, you don't want to just throw the manure in and just let it go, because that can burn your soil.
Well, it has to be very aged.
Right.
And also things like carrots, you would want to put the manure on the fall previously, because if you put the manure on with carrots in the spring, they'll fork, and then you can't put them in the root cellar.
But you get these really funky looking carrots. And
Carrots are not easy to grow.
No, they're not.
They really are not easy to grow. They're one of the tougher vegetables to grow.
I was at a farm a few years ago, and they actually had too much rain, and it wasn't good for the carrots. So you know, today we've been talking about seeds, we've been talking about root cellars, making your plan for your garden. What else should we do? I mean, like, just get started. You know,
Right.
that's what you have to do. And don't do something that is going to be too much for you. You know, take baby steps. If you
Right.
want to start with a patio garden and then go to a regular garden, or again, you can buy your stuff at the farmers markets
Right.
or your
Absolutely.
local farmers.
Support
or-
your local farmer.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
We need to do that. We need to be, able to support ourselves with our food locally,
Yeah.
because it's not a good situation that we can't do that right now.
Right. So I guess what we need to do is get back to basics.
Back to basics.
Yeah,
And we have a few garden pictures
Okay.
that I brought from my garden.
Yeah. So as we're going through some of the garden pictures, we'll just talk a little bit more about, it's so important to take a small step. It doesn't matter if you're planting your summer
I
squash.
know, that's our garden.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a pretty nice picture of
or
the whole
or
thing.
what you're planting. Plant some lettuce. What is this here? Carrots? No, those are
Sweet
yams?
potatoes.
Sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just do something, and you're going to really find that you're going to enjoy your food so much more. If you have grandkids or friends or younger people, get them started in it, because they're going to have those memories. And
Right.
if you're building things in a very young age, they're going to carry that with them, and you'll be surprised who they'll turn out to be if you get them into some of these things and understanding what nature is like.
Yeah.
So, we'll leave you with some of these pictures today, but we have been back to basics with Celeste Longacre. She has a website.
Yes, I
and
do.
What is your website, Celeste?
It's CelesteLongacre.com. But
Okay.
you have to remember there's an E at the end of both of my names, so it's a little tricky. But
Okay,
yeah.
great,
And I do have a blog, and I am kind of trying with the blog to let people know when it's time to buy the seeds, when it's time to do this, when it's time to do that. So it's a way that you can get some gardening advice.
Right. Good. Good. Okay, so we've got our catalogs.
Yep.
We'll be looking through the catalogs, trying to place some orders.
Yep.
I've got my seeds, and I've got seeds that I saved from last year for my garden.
Okay.
So I'll be excited to do
Yep.
that. And let me see. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a
favorite what?
favorite vegetable?
Tomatoes.
Tomatoes. Yeah. Picking them right off the vine.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
those garden
sweet,
tomatoes.
sweet.
But I mean, all of these things are so wonderful
Yeah.
when you grow them
Yeah.
yourself. They're just, it's just amazing.
Nothing's better.
Nothing's better.
That's right.
No,
That's right.
Nothing's better.
Yeah. Okay, so we've been back to basics, and love life and live well.